Welcome back to Games Revealed. I'm Jameson Brink, and we are one. So today I want to talk about a cautionary tale of upgrading, messing around with your Steam Deck too much. Now, if you know what you're doing and you know the risk, then go for it. But this is for most people, and I definitely don't recommend upgrading your SSD, especially into a different form factor than is recommended or what it's spec'd for. And we'll talk about that. So this is a very cautionary tale. Definitely don't, believe everything you read, but it's a tale as old as time on Twitter. And that's where we're going to go for all our sources for the story. So before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, bash that bell with your crowbar. Now, let's go into field trip mode. So on Twitter, you have Belly Jelly. They're able to fit a 2242 into their M.2 slot on the Steam Deck. They claim that it doesn't collide with anything on the motherboard, any extra strain, whatever. However, it does make the heat spreader bow a tiny bit, the back plate reassembled without issues. So there's no real surprise, to be honest, but the problem is the heat sink isn't, the heat pad is not fully covering it, for one, which is a major issue. Because SSDs can actually be heavily affected by heat. Same thing with RAM and all this. And plus the form factor of 2230 has been heavily tested with the Steam Deck over hours and hundreds and thousands of hours. They've done a lot of testing with it. It has not been tested for 2242, or at least if it has been, they haven't let us know. Maybe that's why we have some insider knowledge from Lawrence Yang. And we'll get to that here in a second. It's just, it seems cool on paper. And in fact, I was looking up 2242s and was thinking about doing this myself. But once again, I'm always just cautious about this type of stuff, as I only have one deck. Now, if the decks were readily available, I might be a little bit more risky with my deck. They're so hard to replace right now. And this, I would say, would fall out of the warranty of Valve. It's not their fault that you modified the inside of your deck like this. So once you do something like this, and it's pretty apparent that you did, they're going to just say, okay, well, void warranty kind of stuff. And they're already being pretty nice. I don't know if opening the deck actually voids the warranty, but they're already being pretty generous with offering parts to repair the device. So they're already doing a good job there, in my opinion. So if you are going to replace the drive in your deck, you can go watch the live stream where I did it myself. Just make sure to unplug the battery and then, then replace your drive and then plug the battery back in. That's not the biggest issue for me. And I even don't recommend it for everyone if you just don't know what you're doing. It's really simple. I just don't want you to mess things up. It's not hard. It's just don't want people to regret. Now, the real reason why we know that this is a bad idea is because Lawrence Yang commented on it. At least on the PC Gamer, commenting on Belly Jelly. It's a whole interconnecting web of just news. So, Lawrence Yang, hi, please don't do this. The charger IC gets very hot and nearby thermal pads should not be moved. In addition, most 2242 M.2 drives draw more power and get hotter than what the deck is designed for. This mod may appear to work, but will significantly shorten the life of your deck. So, it's coming from Valve essentially themselves, in my opinion. It's not the official Valve Twitter, but it's close enough for me to say, hey, be very careful with this. Lawrence is right on with this, that it potentially will consume more power, and you could create a new thermal pad. Now, the way that I could maybe see people get around this is maybe, make a bigger thermal pad for it. There's still ways, I would say, to make this work, but if it doesn't end up working in the end, if it really does draw that much more power and the thermal pad just doesn't do its job well enough, even the new one, if you created a new one, it could essentially make your deck only worthwhile for like a year or two, as opposed to like 3 or 4 years. Significant change in the battery or in the deck life is years, and is how I interpret that. So definitely be careful. This is just a very cautionary thing. Once again, it doesn't even talk about chopping off a 2280 drive and down to a 2230. It doesn't even talk about that. It talks about a 2242. So I'd even say a 2280 is even worse off, and it's just a bad idea. once again, if you're willing to risk it, you're fine. Do it. Go ahead. You just can't replace the deck right now. Once the decks are more readily available, then I'd say, hey, these mods are cool and all. I just wouldn't risk it with something that's so hard to get and that's so fun to use. It's not an easy device to replace. Even with the new Loki Max and all these other devices coming out, those aren't out yet. They're not going to be out for a while. This is what we have for now to do this type of gaming on the SteamOS. It's what we have. I just really want to emphasize that don't do it, but you do you. Just don't do it. Unless you know what you're doing. Don't do it. Okay, so with that, I want to know in the comments below what you guys think. Are you going to go and try to modify your drive today, or add a new drive in that's a 2242 or saw off a 2280, or are you going to stick with the 2230 and just upgrade, to 512, 1 terabyte? We do have the new 2 terabytes coming out this year, and so there's options, and I really, once again, just emphasize that I think the 2230 is good enough with the SD cards. I think you're going to have plenty of space. It's always nice and fun to do these things. It's just don't. That's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.